welcome to Scrollin', a podcast about the Elder Scrolls Online. I'm Ket.
I'm Davius.
This is episode number 53. So you haven't done any questing whatsoever.
I did do a Oblivion portal.
Okay.
Have you done one yet?
Through? Yep, I did one all the way. I completed it. What'd you think?
Really cool. I liked it a lot.
I thought it was cool. It was much more of a spectacle than I was expecting it to be. Especially that final boss fight.
It's a lot going on, but I was confused by when I got to the end of it. I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you've looked in and dissected it, but it seemed like when you get to the final area, there's multiple portals that other players came through, and they came from that direction. Because when I got to the portal, I was there when it opened, so I was one of the first ones through, and so I kind of just went in the portal, and there's mobs, and so I started clearing the mobs, and then when I cleared those mobs, I was like, oh, there's you go to portal to portal to portal, and you kind of hop into these different parts.
Yeah.
And then this group of players kind of caught up to me, and then they kind of went with me, and then we were kind of clearing it at a pace together, and then, there's one portal that leads you through a building, which was kind of crazy. And then we got to the final area, and there was 20 players already there. And I was like, how the heck did you all get here? And then the boss popped up, and they were already there, and then we all took down the boss. But I don't even know how those players got there. Yeah,
I wonder if different portals lead to the same final event or something that.
That's the only thing I could think of, is that maybe there's different portals that popped up in the zone, and they took that portal. And so maybe their path to the center was different. And then
maybe that's a center point.
Yeah, and then you all meet at the if that is the way it is, that's a really cool idea.
That's pretty neat. I thought that final fight looked really cool.
Yeah.
There was the stage and setting and everything. And really, in general, that's my overall impression of this zone and everything. I feel like the set design and stuff is really impressive. And when I logged on PTS, my first impression was and I even said it on the podcast, I was that's pretty plain looking, pretty basic looking zone. And I guess kind of the terrain, a lot of it does look that way. But when you look at the cities and the structures and stuff like that, they're really well designed and really cool. And the delves and public dungeons are super cool.
Yeah, that team, I don't know how they, split their teams up, but the team that's in charge of mapping out and actually designing the zone and the artwork and creating that team is knocking it out of the park. We've said this the last couple of expansions, but they just keep getting finer details. It just keeps getting a little bit better each time, where it's all these little subtle minor details. Part of that's the graphics are getting a little bit better. Obviously, they're probably incorporating, newer technology, newer code and things like that. But it just keeps they're doing a very good job of it getting a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better.
I think it's not just technology. I think they're they're getting more clever. I did this one public dungeon. I wrote the name down because I wanted to be sure to mention it. Zenithar's Abbey, probably the coolest public dungeon in the game that I've done so far.
You're already giving it that crown? Coolest in the game.
Yeah,
Holy
it's
cow.
It's so cool. It's this big abbey, a big mansion / community sort of place. And it's all forgotten by time, reclaimed by nature and that sort of thing. And it's just super cool. And there's all these alternate paths and stuff, and just neat little secret places to explore and stuff. It's such a cool, really, you really need to check that out. Hey, Grizzly Khan has joined us.
Grizzly Khan.
Yeah, this is the first time we've actually had people in here while we record our podcast.
Pretty awesome.
It's a new thing. All right. Yeah. You can't say anything. All right. Good deal. It's all working. I present the permissions right. Good deal. So now I got to get mentally used to having an audience.
It's pretty cool. I like this. This is fun. Yeah. This is a lot of fun. Thank you all for hopping in here. This is pretty cool.
Anyway, I guess we could podcast.
Let's start casting.
It's happening, people. Start the music.
That's it right there. That's before editing.
Anyway, Blackwood, the chapter, it's live now. It went live just yesterday. That was Tuesday. This is Wednesday that we're recording this. So Blackwood's the name of the new zone. It's like sandwiched between sort of Elsewhere and Cyrodiil and Murkmire, right?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that it touches everything. I didn't think, I didn't really look ahead, but I didn't realize it was going to touch that many zones from all sides.
Yeah, there's a lot of touching. There's
your episode title. Yep.
I'll write that one down. A lot of touching.
A lot of touching.
But yeah, I saw someone make a forum post that they were praising the fact that you can travel on foot almost all the way around the continent of Tamriel now with this, with a few exceptions, but you can go a good ways. So that's kind of cool. You said you did some a little bit of exploring around the zone?
I did. I just kind of roamed around the zone. Really liked the look of it. I think they knocked it out of the park. It looks very good. The detail, once again, next level. I really like that they keep getting kind of more fine with the details. And the town, the major city, what's it called again?
Leyawiin.
Leyawiin. Great looking city.
I was really impressed, and I saw a lot of people in Zone Chat saying the same thing. Like, I saw some people straight up saying this is the best looking city in the game, which I was surprised to see because it's that Imperial style. It's like a Western European kind of aesthetic. So it seems kind of basic, but it is laid out in a really nice way. Like we had mentioned to each other last night when we were playing that it really looks like a town that people would live in. You know, it's just a really convincing kind of space in that way.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing to me and that was a comment that I made to you when we were first kind of looking through it, is that it's one of the few cities in the game that you really get kind of a city feel from. It seems big enough to actually have a city's worth of people where, you know, there's other really cool towns and things like that, but, you know, there's like 5 buildings and so it's like, well, I don't know if this could actually work with a city. But you really get the feel. There's a lot of like, you know, there's like a little staircase that goes up to a home over there. And it really kind of, the way that they did the buildings and you're going down the streets, you kind of really feel like the buildings are kind of, you know, real tall and kind of overshadowing over the top of you. I thought it was a really cool vibe in the city for sure.
Leyawiin, pretty cool city.
Very cool city. We got to talk about how huge the zone is too, right?
The zone is ridiculously enormous.
I had asked you, because you hopped on PTS. I didn't hop on PTS. I'd asked you and said, you know, do you think it's as big as Morrowind? And you said, maybe close. I think I might be with you. I don't think it's quite as big as Morrowind, but Morrowind's kind of tricky because there's that giant mountain in the middle that you can't really go into that. So you kind of have a long ways around it. But square footage, this might be larger, or it's at least as big, right? At least it feels that way. Yeah,
I don't know. I'm sure someone out there knows exactly the square footage and how it ranks with all the other zones and everything. It seems enormous. Yeah, a lot of the zones have big dead spots in them, like Grizzly's saying.
Yeah.
But this one, I swear, every single time I'm going from like one waypoint to another, I always have a moment where I'm like, are we there yet? And it's like, no, I'm like halfway there.
I love it. I've gotten, you know, I love housing, and I've really gotten back into housing lately. Dive full back in. So as I'm roaming through, I'm like, oh, that's a good looking tree. Oh, look at this plant. That's a nice plant right there. So I'm all about this huge zone as I'm roaming around looking at stuff.
Yeah, they're really great at like placing those items and creating that environmental and storytelling. Like they just keep getting better and better and better at that kind of stuff. So I was going to ask if you made a companion yet, but if you haven't done any quests yet, I guess that's probably a no.
I have not done the companion. What if you end up doing a companion before me? What if that happens? Probably not.
I mean, maybe because I think you just unlock them through quests, and I'm just doing quests. You know, I'm doing the main quest, and then when I encounter a side quest, I'll do it. So I'll probably just unlock one just through the course of doing quests. You know, not I won't go out of my way for it.
I hope like 3 episodes from now it just starts out with, and you're like, companions are my favorite part to ESO. Forget Battlegrounds. I'm companions, guys.
Totally won me over. All my time is just spent with gearing out my companion and getting them their cosmetics all situated.
That makes me think. I
Role
hope
playing with them.
I don't think they ever will, but I hope they have some sort of feature in the future where you can like duel your companions, like my companion versus your companion.
Oh man!
Only the companions
then I would get
fight.
into companions. I would 1,000% get into companions.
How cool would that be? Like you just send your companion after somebody else. That'd be pretty cool. That would be funny.
Okay, I'm into companions now.
Now you're
That would
in.
be sweet.
That's
if
all.
we could have companion duels, and that could be fun.
Oh, man, that'd be pretty cool.
That companion gear, I don't know if people are just kidding around in Zone Chat or if they're serious, but people are finding companion gear and selling them, or trying to sell them in Zone Chat for millions of gold.
Yeah.
Like a green piece of armor and stuff. It's ridiculous.
I thought that was a joke too, but I've been seeing that a bunch too, and you saying that makes me think that maybe people are trying to be serious with that, but it's always multiple millions of what they're trying to say as they're selling. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think that'll probably change quite a bit over time. I think people are this is a new thing, so that'll
surely
stabilize.
Nobody's actually paying those prices. I think I saw a blue resto staff maybe, and somebody was trying to sell it for 8.1 million gold.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's
no,
silly.
Surely no, right?
I think we'll have to give it a couple of months at least before we really have an idea of what that kind of stuff is going to cost. But I can't imagine it's going to be that expensive. I mean, the power potential of the companion itself is not all that much, so I can't imagine those single little pieces are going to be all that valuable.
Yeah, that's going to have to balance out at some point for sure.
Couple of quality of life things. We got the new ability bar timers and the Master Writ Quest Assistants. I haven't done the Master Writ Quest Assistants yet, but the ability bar timers, have been using those, and they seem all right. They're not exactly the same as Action Duration Reminder, but close enough, I think. And just being able to uninstall an add-on, that's always a good thing.
Love that.
Because that impacts performance, and also related to performance, all group sizes in the game. I think we mentioned this before. You can group sizes are all limited to 12 players now in Cyrodiil and in PvE zones everywhere. Not everyone's happy about that. I know a lot of guild events and stuff that's going to be disruptive for that. But they say in the patch notes that this absolutely has an effect on performance. That's 100%, the reason they're making this decision. So it seems like it must be somewhat significant, or they wouldn't be doing it, because otherwise, why just make players mad like that,
Yeah, anytime if they find a performance thing like that, at least from what it sounds like with what they're saying, I think it's good for everyone. I know that some people might be bummed out, but you still have guild chat, and still have ways for large groups to communicate and things like that. So if it really is performance, good for the game, that's good for everyone.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to take the good with the bad. Like I remember when one Tamriel dropped. Like there were a handful of negative things about that change to the one Tamriel situation, but overall it was a better situation. We get free respecs for a limited period of time. Davius is always excited about this.
I've already done a respec on Davius. Didn't really need it, but just did it. Just needed
to
look at all the skills. You were kind of teasing me about this, but I think the reason I do it is just because I take it as an opportunity, especially when they're free. I take it as an opportunity to go back and look at all the morphs. Because I know, with patch notes and changes and expansions, sometimes there's just like a little change to a morph that you never really noticed. And so I take these as I go back and pick all my skills. I really am looking at both morphs. And sometimes I'll end up changing a morph. It's pretty rare, but sometimes I'll end up picking another one than one I've used for a long, long time. And so if it's free, I love going back and really comparing one morph over the other. I've probably got about 30 more respecs on my characters coming, where I'll go through and change them all up.
It's so funny. Every time we have a free respec, you're just always at those shrines. Just like, I'm just trying some other stuff. We'll see. I don't know.
Go pay your respects to Stoon. Is it it's the Stoon shrine, right? It's the respecs?
The shrine, the Stune Shrine is the one that redoes your skill points and morphs, and then I think it's Kine does your attribute points, maybe.
Go pay your respects to Stune.
Yep. Proc sets are re-enabled in Cyrodiil, much to the dismay of people who play in Cyrodiil. Pretty much across the board. I'm just seeing people say, "Turn them back off, please." It seemed like such a happy time. I honestly did not step foot in Cyrodiil at all during this whole no proc test, for no reason other than I was just too busy with Battlegrounds.
Sure.
But everyone seemed to really enjoy it a lot.
I wonder if part of me wonders, and you read the forums a little bit more than I do, but part of me wonders if it was performance related why they loved it, or if it was just straight they just don't like procs.
No, I think it was combat balance. It was the reason why.
Just brought balance back, and part of me wonders what with this new proc setup with CP. Part of me wonders if that's even part of what people are not liking proc system there, because I haven't really tested this, and so this is just me purely guessing. But with CP, I feel like you could maybe throw one proc set on there and get pretty abusive with it, with some pretty abusive numbers.
Yeah, I could see that. Like even just like a Vatishran back bar with like a 9,000 weapon damage build, just heavy attack someone's head off.
Yeah, or like one that stands out to me is like Unfathomable Darkness. That got nerfed with this proc setup, but other than that, it didn't. There was no real changes to it. So if you threw that on your back bar, it's a very easy back barable set, and then you just spike your weapon damage through the roof to have something like, that's a great set if it's dealing enough damage. So there's just stuff like that makes me wonder, like, is that stuff getting a little crazy?
Yeah, but in that case, though, I think that I'm okay with something like that. Like, I'm okay with one really strong proc set that's adding some flavor or something to your build, and it should be strong. If it's just like one thing, I think, you're probably going to be able to figure out how to counter that. The problem is when you're up against one of these proc stacking builds, it's like in the heat of the moment, maybe you can react to one of those procs and counter one or two of those procs, but like 3 or 4 procs, that are proccing in different ways and hitting you from different directions and different things, it's just you have no chance. So you think even if there is 1 or 2 procs in a build that are super strong, the volatility of the battleground in general is going to be way low. I mean, I've already done several BGs since the patches dropped, and I can already tell you that, like, just standing on the ground is a lot easier.
Oh, BGs feel great. Yeah, BGs feel great right now.
I should do more Cyrodiil. I say that every time we mention it, but it's just like, why do that when there's battlegrounds? It's hard to justify.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. I like battlegrounds more, but I do think with all of the Cyrodiil testing, if they do get Cyrodiil to a point where it's really up and running and they get it feeling really good, I could see us going into Cyrodiil more. Kind of the same thing with Imperial City. We had a lot of fun really diving down Imperial City, and so we actually do Imperial City pretty regularly now. Battlegrounds is still number 1, but I could see Cyrodiil getting to kind of that level if they really, all these tests do lead to some stuff.
I think when it comes down to it, it's the horse simulator aspect that is the biggest turnoff. Yeah. Like Imperial City, we've had nights in Imperial City where there's hardly any PvP happening whatsoever, but, we get into some boss fights, we do some PvE, we get some Telvar, we get some key fragments, like we're engaged the whole time, whereas in Cyrodiil, it's a lot of horse riding. It's a whole lot of horse riding.
That's a great point. There needs to be, if they had some additional aspect, like, the Telvar really sells Imperial City, where if you can't find a whole lot of PvP, at least you have other stuff going on. Nothing's worse than when you're in Cyrodiil and you have to ride on your mount all the way to this next fort. You get there. By the time you get there, you get ganked, you die right at the door, and then you're just like, wow, that was 5 minutes just wasted.
And I feel like Imperial City is, like, any time that I would spend in Cyrodiil, I'm almost certainly going to go to Imperial City instead.
Well, you're rewarded for it, right? I mean, you just said it. I think that's a great point. That time that you're running around Imperial City going to look for a fight, you're getting Telvar, which, that's a great It's a great thing to farm. Yeah, key fragments are great.
I was even really looking forward to this no proc test. I was like getting excited about it going into it, and then just never even went at all.
And it was a long test too.
Yeah, it lasted an entire patch. So proc sets are re-enabled in Cyrodiil. And at the same time, proc sets, of course, have been reworked. We've already talked about this extensively, so we don't have to rehash it all again. But just a quick recap. Damage-dealing proc sets will scale with your weapon and spell damage. Healing proc sets will scale with your maximum stamina and magicka. And then tanking proc sets, depending on which set, will scale with your maximum health or resistance. And then they targeted some specific problem sets and nerfed them in addition to the scaling. So sets like Crimson Twilight, the Maelstrom Two-Hander, Unleashed Terror, to name a few.
Love it.
Yeah, and the result has been, like we were just saying, like I've done a bunch of Battlegrounds, and I do see some procs here and there, but honestly, the ones that I see, I think it's mostly just people haven't updated their builds yet.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of way back when Elsewhere, when we were at the time Elsewhere, and New Moon Acolyte was like every single person in PvP was like, well, it's New Moon Acolyte and something else, and it was just kind of
like,
yeah. And then me and you are like, we're not. I don't think we ever used it on a build because we were just like, I'm so sick of hearing about New Moon Acolyte, and then it finally got nerfed. That's what this kind of reminds me with the Crimson, the Unleashed Terror, those kind of builds. It's like everybody was using it, and I'm excited to see it nerfed so that we can see some change and different stuff and Battlegrounds.
Yeah, and I've encountered a few people, like I've seen a Crimson build, and like it seems like they were getting a little something out of Crimson. Like it wasn't like totally useless on them. Like it saved them a couple of times, but they weren't like unkillable. They did die.
Yep.
I've seen some gap closer spamming builds that They seem to have about average type of performance compared to everyone else, so that's good. They're not terrible, they're not bad, but they're not just like absurdly overpowered from just pushing one button like they were. It's kind of like we all predicted. At least so far, I've done probably maybe 30 Battlegrounds since this patch has dropped, and that's just kind of what I see. And I think a lot of it just people haven't updated their builds yet, so they're just using them as they are. Like, let's just see how it is, and it still performs pretty well.
Yeah, I think the craziest one to me was we were in a Battleground together and we saw a guy that had Grothdar and it kept going off. And I remember thinking like, oh man, this is Grothdar, this is hitting. And it was kind of like, wow, like it's not, I mean, it was still hitting and it was still doing stuff, but it was not the Grothdar of old.
Yeah.
That circle around him it wasn't quite as frightening. And it was throwing me off because it's like, I was having like PTSD from fighting someone with Grothdar procs, and it was like, all right, I can actually fight through this a little bit.
Yeah, because like we said on past episodes, like Grothdar and most proc sets just aren't going to be hitting as hard as they used to, and because of that, not as many people will be wearing proc sets. So it kind of has this compounding effect, right? They're weaker. Plus, you're not seeing them as much either. So it just that's what I mean when I'm saying like the volatility of the environment is so much lower. It's just easier to exist. Like you can jump into the middle of a scuffle and, survive a little bit and not have to worry about just this passive background damage that's burning you down. Malakath was also nerfed, like I just mentioned. It increases your damage done by 16% rather than 25%. And now it does allow you to crit, but it subtracts 50% from your crit damage multiplier, right? And we had a whole discussion about that, but basically what that means is technically you do crit, but you're doing 0% bonus crit damage, right? So it's as if you don't crit damage-wise, but as far as mechanics go, like sets that proc off of crit and stuff like that would still work because technically it is a crit. So it's nerfed, but in a way it kind of opens it up for a lot of other different kinds of builds too. So for like mag sorts, for example, this is a giant buff because this isn't an item they were likely to use at all before.
Yep.
So that's kind of cool.
It's still the best mythic item, right? At least from a PvP standpoint, it's still probably the best one.
If you're looking for one single item to give you as much damage as possible. There's not going to be any other one single item that's going to give you 16% bonus damage. And even without the crit damage, it's still, I think just the last episode we talked all about it. It's still going to win over almost anything else you could put on your build for just one single item.
Still great.
The Pale Order change, of course, you lose 4% healing per group member that you're with. So I think if you're with 5 or more people in your group, then this item just does not do anything at all. So we already talked about it before, I know, but I just thought it was worth mentioning again. That it went live that way. It's just like absolutely only play solo with this item.
I just imagine there's an employee at ZOS that came up with the idea for this item. He's like, guys, I just want one item for me. He won some work contest or something where he got to pick an item just for him. And after it launched and people used it for a while, he just came into the meeting and was, what the hell, guys? People, groups are using my ring. And they're like, oh, sorry. We'll make some changes. Listen, we'll make sure only you are using it.
I like all these fictional developers you have created in your mind.
I've got the whole ZOS team in the back of my mind now at this point.
That's funny. So yeah, Pale Order. A bunch of miscellaneous combat and balance adjustments. I'm not going to go over them all. Most of them are pretty minor. I don't think any of them are going to change how you use those abilities or anything like that. The one that I was happiest to see is the Warden's Arctic Wind, and all of its morphs reduce the base heal by 20% and the heal over time by 17%. The ZOS Extended Universe, Grizzly Khan says, Davis is going to come up. We'll have a whole deep lore about the people who work at ZOS. Completely fictional. It won't be about the actual people.
No, not at all. I'll start coming up with names.
Mm-hmm.
They're all going to be Nord themed, that's going to come out of the blue. That's real surprising, I know, to everyone.
Weird.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Arctic Wind, that it was nerfed significantly by 20%, the base heal. All these health stacking builds that are so annoying. Arctic Wind is a health based heal, so the more health you have, the stronger the heal is. So that's an ability, along with the proc stacking meta and everything else, that just encouraged people to stack their health as high as possible and not really invest in offensive stats. So this is just another example of balance being changed in such a way where you're not encouraged to do that anymore. If you want to stack health, you can do that, but it's not going to be nearly as effective as it used to be. There are a bunch of CP adjustments. They further reduced the number of stages for the passive stars. I think just about every passive star was touched, which I think is funny. I think, the initial implementation of the CP rework was a pretty massive nerf compared to the previous CP system. And then every single update since then, they continue to just nerf it and nerf it and nerf it more and more and more. It's I think they really just don't want the CP system to exist at all. They would rather just scrap it and just not have it.
I still think the day is coming where it blends in. No CP and CP those are on a collision course for some day in the future.
That would be ideal if they can balance it well. They also added 6 new stars in the Warfare constellation, enlivening Overflow, From the Brink, Hope Infusion. So those are new stars. And then they've brought back Master at Arms and Weapons Expert. And then there's Salve of Renewal is another one of the new ones.
I still need to really spend some time and dive into CP and really get more strategic with it. I've kind of rushed it a little bit on most of my characters just to kind of fill it out for me. I mean, obviously we spend so much time in Battlegrounds, no CP, but I do like this because for the first time since they've done this slottable with these, it's the first time that I've really struggled filling in my slot, the slots, is that I've actually been I'm actually having a tough decision between these 2 or these 3 of which one that I want to slot.
I've kind of found the setup that I like for the most part, and it may not actually be the most optimal. There might be technically something that gives me more damage or whatever, but I just kind of okay, Give me the one that gives me more magicka, the one that gives me more damage, the one that gives me more crit. Just kind of the basic bare bones ones are the ones that I kind of go for, and it seems fine.
You love you some stats.
Yeah.
I wish they would give us a free CP week, like just a free week of resetting this a whole bunch. I would really benefit from that, kind of tinkering with this.
That would be nice.
See how far my points could go and everything like that.
So yeah, CP adjustments, and yeah, that's that's it. That's the patch. It's live now, and we talked
That's everything.
about it.
Just all summed up.
All the details.
Now you know all the stuff about Blackwood.
It's doing the episode right after the live patch is always hard because we just spent weeks talking all about PTS, just every little detail, and talked all about it. So I don't want to just like repeat ourselves and say all the same stuff again.
Yeah.
And it just dropped yesterday, so I haven't had a huge chance to really dig into stuff, but I can say that the zone seems cool. So far, the quests are really interesting. The voice acting is really good. I'm really impressed with all the set design stuff. Like anytime especially like inside of buildings and structures and places like that where like creatures and people dwell. Amazing environmental storytelling. I continue to be impressed with that stuff. That one public dungeon, what was it called? Zenithar's Abbey. Seriously, got to check that out. It's the quest itself. The quest that you follow to get through the dungeon is really cool, and it just looks cool. It's awesome to explore. I was really impressed with that.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out soon. You've sold me.
And like we were saying before, Battlegrounds this patch so far, I mean, for the past 24 hours, really do feel amazing. And other people, like in the Battlegrounds guild that we're in, people are kind of a consensus that, yeah, procs do feel less oppressive. And it's kind of like direct burst damage is the way to go again. And a lot of people are kind of touting their no proc builds. Like I see a lot of players like linking their builds in chat, like, yep, here's my no proc build and stuff. So you can tell people are excited about this new meta and happy that things are going in the direction that they're going, at least in the PvP world. In the PvE world, I think this proc change is maybe less impactful for PvE players, just as far as procs have never been the most effective way to do a lot of damage in PvE, and I think that's just kind of still the case, really. It's still just a lot of crit is probably going to be still what you want to do good damage in PvE.
Yeah. I mean, going back to Battlegrounds, it's really, like you said, we've really only done Battlegrounds for the past 24 hours, but it seems silly to say, but there's more fighting happening instead of just passive deaths where people are just passively dying. You're seeing more fighting happening in Battlegrounds. You're actually able to actually have fights with other players, and it really is a lot of fun. It makes a big difference. I'm
seeing Magsorks emerge even more than they were last patch, as like once again the Magsork is the spec that's just racking up all of the kills. And I think that playing field has been leveled quite a bit the last couple of patches with the proc stacking meta that we've been in. Magsorks kind of have been brought down several pegs because of all this volatility in the environment, but now they're kind of back on top again, I think.
They've come out of the shadows.
They have. Oh, man, there's one. I won't mention his name, but he's in Adastra, one of the guilds that we're in, and man, he just shreds every single time. I've seen him. I saw him in several Battlegrounds earlier today, and a couple of times he was on my team, and I was just super thankful for that. Let's just say that much.
Thank goodness.
It's funny. It's cool to see. There's sort of this kind of new class, like Adastra is the name of the Battlegrounds guild that we're in, and there's of course these incredible players that have been in the guild for a long time, and they've been top players for a long time. But there's sort of this new class that has joined up in the last several months, past year or so, that it's like, man, these fools have figured out a way to just take it to the next level, and they're showing us old folks how it's done.
It is pretty cool to see kind of like a new wave, and you're like, oh, these are some new players, and then you see them Battlegrounds, like, oh my gosh, these guys are phenomenal.
Yeah, seriously phenomenal. But I've been having fun. I've been playing with my Magicka Warden. Aunt Lola has been kind of the spec that I've been most focused on. And she's my healer, kind of my primary healer that I've been focused on this patch, for this patch. And I want to give a shout out to Mowards. Mowards helped me farm for some Gossamer pieces in Cradle of Shadows, which I was reluctant to farm for, but he's the one that kind of poked and prodded me. Like I was logged into the game and he would whisper me like, "Hey, come on, man, I'm feeling lucky. Let's go do some Cradle of Shadows."
Way to go, Mowards. We got the Gossamer on there.
Yeah, thanks, Mowards. What's funny is we did our very first run. Mowards got the Resto staff. And if you remember, that was the thing that was making me the most reluctant. I was like, I have to get the Resto staff, and anytime you have to get a specific weapon, I just know it's going to be a pain to grind for that. Mowards got the Resto staff on the first run, but I realize now that I actually don't need a Resto staff. I don't need a weapon at all, because I had overlooked the fact that Gossamer only has a 1 second duration. But it procs from any heal. If you heal someone in any way whatsoever, then they get major evasion, but it only lasts for 1 second. So really using it as a 1-bar set makes no sense at all, right?
Those listeners that have listened for a while will understand. I don't know if I'm quite ready to laugh at the fact that you were grinding a Resto staff and got it run number 1. I don't know.
And then
maybe
didn't even need it.
and then you just discarded it that you didn't need it after your first. It's too soon for me. All right, the wound is not fully healed yet.
I still took it.
Oh sure. You'll put it up on the wall. You'll hang that thing up. Sure, why not?
Yeah, maybe they'll extend the duration at some point in the future. So but Gossamer is my 5-piece set that's active on both bars. And as long as you have it active on both bars, you basically have a 100% uptime on major evasion for you and your group, as long as you're in combat. And we'll talk more about that here in a minute. But the build setup is Gossamer, 5 pieces, Curse Eater. And Curse Eater is just complete on the back bar with a Resto staff. And then I have a Master Fire Staff on the front bar, and then 2 pieces Mighty Chudan. And what's interesting is this, I'm pretty sure this is my only character that I'm using a 2-piece monster set on.
That is pretty wild thing. And it's Chudan.
Yeah, it's like, God, it doesn't even really count.
It's kind of like it's like the most passive monster set.
Yeah, like since mythic items have been introduced, and since arena weapons are so much easier to get a hold of now too, yeah. I hardly use monster sets anymore, except for the 1 pieces.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, Gossamer. So I've known for a while, people have told me for a long time that Gossamer is one of the best PvP healing sets you can use, and I looked at it and I thought like, yeah, that's pretty cool, but I don't know, there's maybe other things I would rather use. And I think I was just kind of undervaluing major evasion, because I would read it and you think you're reading it and you think, or I think, 20% damage reduction from AoE attacks. But what about all the stuff that isn't AoE? It doesn't do anything for that. So I would rather have some sort of defensive buff that helps me with all kinds of attacks. It's always been kind of my way of thinking. That's why I never really prioritize having this buff in my builds. But when you really think about it, all the stuff that kills you is AoE, pretty much. And just off the top of my head, I made a little list here. And this is by no means a complete list. There's lots more stuff than this. This is just kind of what I could think of while I was putting this outline together. But Dawnbreaker, the Dual Wield Ultimate, the Destro Staff Ultimate, the Meteor Ultimate, the Warden's Northern Storm, the Dragon Knight's Leap Ultimate, the Necromancer's Colossus and Goliath Ultimates, Sub-Assault, Blast Bones, the Necromancer Graveyard Synergy, Spin to Win, Templars, basically their entire offensive toolkit. The whole class of Templars. You take 20% damage, less damage from them. Bomb Blades, you basically are not going to get bombed anymore if you have major evasion. 20% reduced damage from their entire attack is nothing but AoE. Not to mention a number of proc sets. I mean, just to name a few, Venomous Smite, Ashen Grip, Crimson Twilight, Celestrix, Selene's, Vulcan, Grothdar, the Vadishran Two-Hander, Savara Scales, Azure Blight Reaper. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. 20% less damage from all that stuff, and you look at your death recaps and, maybe sometimes it's a Mage's Wrath or a Executioner that that was the thing that finished you off. But what came before that? It was probably an AoE attack of some kind.
This list is what really put it in perspective for me. Kind of just reading through your list and being like, oh my gosh, yeah, there's so many of those that are such hard-hitting abilities that you really have to watch out for. And just 20% across the board less damage from those it's huge. It's huge.
It's massive. And it's really has been the thing that has made this character, like, this has always been a character that has really strong heals, but I always had to play her like very kitey, you know, and I would have to like really line of sight a lot, not take too much damage because she has strong heals, but she's pretty squishy at the same time. And she's always been a light armor build, and she still is. But with this major evasion active at all times, I seriously feel like I can just stand right in the middle of the fight and just tank it out and just keep those heals going. And for the most part, as long as I'm with a team that's applying a decent amount of pressure, it feels good. It feels fun. Like I can hang in there and I don't have to line of sight all that much, except for like if I'm getting really focused hard, you know, just in those moments. So it's feeling really, really good. I'm really liking it. 5 pieces Gossamer. I would highly recommend just farm Cradle of Shadows on normal. 5 body pieces. Don't need the weapons. And Mallard's, and he brought a friend. I can't remember his friend's name, but man, they brought the DPS. I was tanking, and they made it a breeze to get through that thing. It was not a bad farm at all.
It. There you go.
Oh yeah. The biggest weakness for this build is single target direct melee damage. So for example, Dizzy Swing spammers and Stamina Nightblades. Those 2 things specifically really are the things that give me the most grief, because it's single target, so the major evasion doesn't do anything, and they're melee. Since it's a warden, I use Shimmering Shield, so any ranged attacks I'm basically just immune to. But melee, it doesn't do anything for that. So those are kind of my biggest weaknesses. And if a good, strong Dizzy Brawler or Stamblade really gets a hold of me, they can chew me up if I'm not careful. But for the most part, I feel like those are kind of easy to counter. Like a single target melee brawler's got to be the easiest thing to counter, I would say, in this game. So.
Yeah, well, if you're the healer and you've got a good team, then really, if someone's focusing you, you know, if there's a single target person that starts focusing you, you know, it's kind of the team's job to go and help the healer out at that point. You know, kind of try to go pull that single target person off of you.
Yeah, well, and plus, like I have Race Against Time, you know, like that's the thing. Like if a Dizzy spammer starts trying to focus me, even if they have a ton of damage, I can usually just spam Race Against Time a few times and just like run in a circle and they can't target me, you know, and I just kind of do that until they get tired of it and leave me alone. It's pretty effective. Stamblades, man, I've come across a few gankers though that like they can just nuke me out of stealth in an instant.
Yeah, the Stamblades are kind of coming out of the shadows a little bit too.
Yeah, it seems to be a really good time for them. I think, again, these stat increases, kind of what we were talking about in the last episode, how Magicka builds have benefited so much from these stat increases. I think Stamblades benefit a bit from that too, because they use a lot of Magicka for Cloak and for the Shade and different things like that. So having an increased Magicka pool that they don't have to invest in helps them out quite a bit. But I've really been enjoying this character, man. The heals are through the roof, like multiple millions. You know, anytime we're in a decent, like good match that lasts the length of time, it's like over 2 million heals.
I can say from the person being healed, there's been multiple moments where Lola has totally saved me. I've even called up and thank you for saving my life just right there. This has been a great character for even, you know, when me and you duo queue. This has been, when you're playing with Lola, I know that I can go grab one of my damage characters and it's gonna be a fun time.
Let's see. Yeah, we did do a few matches just last night with Lola and your stamina warden, Bearclaw.
Old Bearclaw the Nord.
You got to fill us in on what's going on with this guy. I love this build. I love that you're having so much success with this silly build.
I mean, Bearclaw the Nord. I mean, this is probably going to be, you know, I've played with a couple different characters since since our last episode, but this is really the only one that I just really want to zone in to talk about. Just a reminder of the build. It's Stamina Warden, 5-piece Fury, 2-piece Baylorg, 2-piece Trainee on the jewelry, And it's got a Vatashran bow on the front bar, and that's that point blank snipe, and then a master bow on the back bar. Here's the honest truth. This is just the honest truth about this character. This character, for a while now, I made him, and he has become more of just a theme build than anything. This build was made as a complete joke. I'm not going to lie. It was a complete joke that I was like, let's see if I can make this joke work. And
turns out
this might be my best performing character right now. I mean, I'd like to hear your opinion on it, but when we have played, you've played with me with multiple characters. This might be my best performing character of all my characters right now.
I don't know why you're saying might, because I'm pretty sure it's quite clearly your best performing character.
Man, I just can't get. I mean, I seriously made it as a joke, as this character's got his own theme, and it was like, all right, fully diving into the theme. He's the point blank snipe build. This dude hits hard. He
hits so hard, man.
It's just so surprising how hard he hits. I did not realize how hard he could get hit. And the greatest part to the strategy, and this is part of the beauty to it, it's such a great strategy. Players are charging right up to me. They see me with a bow, they see me do snipe, and they're charging right up to me, which is exactly what I want. They're coming to me, getting in perfect range.
It's instinct. Like, you hear that snipe sound and you turn your head, where's it coming from? I'm going to focus that player, get me an easy kill really quick. And yeah, it just plays right into your trap. It's so great.
And I feel like you can tell how much fun I'm having with him, because of all the characters I play with right now, this is the one that I talk the most randomness as I'm playing him. I'm just laughing as I'm playing him. I'm thanking people as they're running up to me.
We're both just giggling our butts off. I mean, it's just hilarious.
Just snipe him down.
Yeah.
Can't miss this one. Getting chained with this character, love it. It's the greatest thing. Love it when I get chained. It makes it so much easier for me.
Well, it's funny that it's great that you're in heavy armor and that you're a Nord. It's a pretty darn tanky character.
He's pretty tanky.
So it's like totally the opposite of what everyone's expecting from you being a snipe spamming kind of build. Like, it's just it always takes them by surprise, and it's just so hilarious to watch.
Oh man, the only thing that I really need to work with this character is the combo is kind of a lot. Just quick run through the combo. It's the poison injection on the back bar with the master bow. So poison injection, light attack. I've got an infused master bow on the back bar, and then I swap to the front bar. And then I hit the swarm ability, sub assault, and then I just start sniping. So there's kind of the setup for it is a little bit. I'm still kind of working, trying to keep the buffs up and going through that. I need to get a little bit better at that. But man, it is. I can't believe that it works, and I keep waiting to just be like, all right, it's just been a fluke. But I think it's been long enough now that it just works.
Legit. Yeah,
it just legit works. I mean, it's getting kills, and it's gotten to the point now where I'm actually confident enough that I see people's health, and I see when they're close to me, and I'm like, yep, he's about 2 snipes away. Just 2 point blank snipes. That guy's he's gonna be gone.
See, and that's another part of the beauty of it is because it is snipe. Like, even at range, that thing hits pretty hard, and it has a really long range. So people will get close, and then they'll realize what's happening, and they'll try to get out of there. But then you have range too, so you can just keep attacking them.
Just keep going after them.
You usually get that kill if they try to get away. It's perfect.
Or can send the bear after him. It's all around maybe one of the best builds that I've ever put together. Just all things considered.
Yeah, I wonder how many point blank snipe builds there are out there.
We're gonna start a group of us. We're gonna all just point blank.
Oh my gosh, dude, that would be so fun. I would probably be more likely to do that than the wolf pack, honestly.
The point blank snipe group. Oh,
dude, man. I might farm for that item.
We got to make it happen. Goons that are out there listening, start getting your point blank snipe builds put together.
We should all make necromancers with that armor that pulls people in.
Yeah.
And use that.
Just pulling everybody in. Oh man, that's great.
So great. I've been waiting for this patch to drop to get my Magplar updated because I've been wanting to get my hands on this Heartland Conqueror set. So he's been using Innate Axiom and War Maiden, but now he's using Heartland Conqueror and War Maiden with a sharpened lightning staff, Maelstrom Resto in the back bar, Ring of the Wild Hunt, and one piece Vulcan Scoria. I did probably 5 or 6 BGs today with this build. It feels great. It feels very similar to the Innate setup. It's hard to tell a big difference, but it feels good. I would recommend it.
Yeah, I think that's the good thing, right? Is that Innate or Heartland both feel great. Both are craftable sets.
Yeah,
but I was intrigued by how close the two were. I didn't expect it to be that close.
And then, of course, I updated Betsy for this patch as well. So get ready, guys. Here's the Betsy update.
Ooh, boy. Massive changes.
I adjusted her attribute points. So she now has 29k health and 25.5k stamina. That's the update.
That's massive Betsy changes right there. Things were changed.
She was sitting at like 27 and 27, which is pretty low. 30k health that's kind of the ballpark you want to be in right now. So 29k I think is fine. This is I have accepted the fact that this is a very squishy build. 29k I think is pretty good. 25.5k stamina is low by this patch's standards, I would say, but I think it works totally fine on this build. She has insane amounts of damage and sustain, and it's really no problem.
I always love the moments we did a couple of BGs where you hopped on old Betsy last night, and I always love the moments where you're working on other builds, which that's like the only time you get pulled away from old Betsy is when you have multiple other builds that you're kind of working and building, getting ready for a next patch. And so I feel like it had been a minute, so you've been on old Betsy.
Yeah.
And I loved, it's like a minute into the battleground, you're like, ooh, Betsy's feeling good. This character feels real good. You could just hear your love for this character now. And it's like the back of your hand. It's so comfortable for you could just see it.
Well, and this meta is really playing into her favor too. She's always been very stat based, not using any procs, just relying on speed and skill and all of that stuff. And now everyone's kind of being forced to play on those same terms. And it's like, man, I live here. Welcome to my turf, So Betsy, it's really fun.
When you're in the driver's seat with Betsy, it really is. You really have come to master this. Very difficult to hit Betsy. There's so many times when you'll be in a fight, I'll see Betsy and you'll go off around the corner. I'm like, oh man, I'm not gonna be able to keep up there. And then I'll turn around, you're right behind me. I'm like, oh, what just? Where did
Betsy go? I feel like you've come to appreciate Betsy on a new level since you kind of made your Stamplar and
very
sort
much
of mimic
so.
the play
Very
style.
much so. Very much so.
It's fun. I guess I could remind people of the build. It's 5 pieces Bone Pirate, 5 pieces Deadly Strikes with two-handed greatsword on the front bar, Master Bow on the back bar, Ring of the Wild Hunt, and I think it's one piece Bloodspawn. It was Molag Kenna, but it's Bloodspawn now for a little more sustain. She has 7,000 weapon damage when she's fully buffed, and that's on her stat sheet. That doesn't reflect the Master Bow, and that doesn't reflect Deadly Strikes either. Like her jabs tooltip is like 4,500. Like each jab hits for 4,500.
The old Betsy jab off.
It's a jab off you want, huh? That's if anyone plays Rocket League, rule number 1 of Rocket League: if you smash face to face into another car and you get stuck like in front of each other, the rule is you just have to both keep driving forward until physics forces you to become unstuck. I gotta have the same rule. Rocket League chicken, Dr. Professor says.
Professor.
I have the same rule with Betsy. If I come across another Templar and we start jabbing each other, okay, nothing but jabs until one of us is dead. No running away or anything.
Just a good old Betsy jab off.
It's an old jab off. Best build there is. Prove me wrong. Old Betsy. Do you have any other builds you wanted to talk about?
Nope. I just old Bear Claw. Just guys, point blank snipe. Everybody's sleeping on the Vadistram bow. It's working.
Dude, it's so funny. I mean, I know I keep saying it, but like, I'm like standing there right next to you, and I'll see you like get right in someone's face. Like you're literally like touching their character and just like pulling that thing back and slamming them with it, with a sub assault coming in behind it, of course. And you really do just see those health bars just vanish.
I think my favorite commentary that you've given in a BG is that you had said, you go, I can just somehow see these players' faces.
Yeah, like, why is this happening?
I see their reactions to what is happening to them right now.
Yeah, they came into this fight so confident, and it turned so wrong for them.
Oh, this bow snipe build's got a bear. He can't even go invisible. This could be easy.
So funny.
Oh,
I love that it's actually like a really good, effective build. It's just it's the best.
It's great. Bear Claw the Nord, my new main.
So, yeah, all in all, man, I'm pumped about this patch. I'm pumped about the meta that we're in now. I think it's going to take a little while for the meta to shake out. I don't know if we're totally done with procs. Like we've said before, I think at first people are going to be getting rid of the procs. Anything that gets nerfed, it's just like, well, because it was nerfed, I'm not going to use it now. A lot of people just kind of have that reaction to things.
Yeah.
So 2 or 3 months from now, I think we're really going to see what things look like. People are going to start kind of returning back to stuff that they thought wasn't good and putting it back on their builds and see what they can come up with. It's usually like the phase usually goes like 2 weeks. I think after the first 2 weeks, we have kind of the first phase of the new meta where everyone has like the new sets and the kind of the obvious new powerful builds are going to be around. Then we get like maybe a couple of months into it and we get like phase 2. And then it seems like right before the next patch drops, we have like a phase 3 of the meta at that point.
That's where things get real crazy.
Yeah, and that's when you kind of get the weird builds that no one really thought of at first, like those DK heavy attack builds. It's the ones I always thought of. Like it seemed like people figured those out like maybe 3 weeks before they were nerfed out of existence, more or less.
And boy, were they terrifying.
Yeah. They did so much damage, but at the same time they were really squishy. That was the
way around them.
Balancing. You just had to that's what you had to do. You just had to focus them really hard. That was the counter. So yeah, I'm excited about PvP. Me likey PvP.
That's such a billboard statement there. I like PvP.
Emails and shout-outs. No emails this week. Now, Dr. Professor, I know you're listening, so, you know.
He set,
what's up, man?
He set the bar for the kindness and great emails. He set the bar, Dr. Professor.
I thought it was going to be like a weekly
email
thing.
Ever.
Here's the weekly Dr. Professor email. Gather around, boys and girls.
Everybody, Dr. Professor he's got an email. Everybody quiet down.
Okay. Just got an email from Dr. Professor, guys.
Email just came in. Breaking news.
He says, nice job, guys. Thank you, Dr. Professor. Once again, raising the bar for emails.
Once again, great email. Just the best. Top notch.
We do have some shout outs though. We've had a couple of Goon nights since the last podcast. So shout out to Grizzly Khan, Mowards, and Murph. We've all grouped up and did a couple of nights where we did a bunch of BGs. Super duper fun. Some really sweaty matches. Everybody handled themselves really well. Yep. I was very impressed with everyone's performance, honestly. We had a really great time. Also, a special shout out to Caliban. We went up against a pre-made team that he was on. Got utterly destroyed by their team. No surprise. And then he hopped in our Discord and gave us a GG, guys, which we knew was him just kind of giving us an audio tea bag. So thanks, Caliban.
we called it the digital tea bag. No, seriously, Caliban's awesome. I mean, he's the only person that will just completely annihilate you, and then you're not even mad about it because it's just like you just respect the greatness, and you're like, he's so kind about it afterwards.
Yeah, there's no toxicity. It's just like
he just killed me 14 times, but it was in the most kind way. He was so cool about it.
Almost every time, if I'm in a matchup against Caliban, if he gets me good a couple of times, I'll almost always get an apology in guild chat afterwards.
He is always so thoughtful to apologize for for the just annihilating that he's in the just the,
not going to stop him from doing it, but he'll apologize for it.
Oh man.
Again, special shout out to Mowers for helping me get that Gossamer gear. Really appreciate that. I'm not sure I would have had the impetus to just get up and do it if you hadn't prodded me along. So thank you very much for that. Anything else, Davius?
Just the overall summary of just really just a goon shout out there. Stoon's Goons shout out.
Oh yeah, we have a guild called Stoon's Goons.
Gosh, I gotta stop you from the oh yeah to begin. We gotta knock that part. Oh yeah.
We have a guild called Stoon's Goons, and
it's a work of progress. Work of progress with Ket.
Really great guild hall. Honestly, I think probably the best feature of the guild is our incredible guild hall, which Davius Starjumper here, master decorator. Honestly, you really need to apply for a job with Zoss, like setting scenes and stuff like that.
Man, I could do it all day.
I seriously, I bet you could do it. Anyway, Stoon's Goons. Oh wait, hold on. Emails. If you want to see us, if you want to send us an email, that whiskey's catching up with me.
You would wait and interrupt the Stoon's Goons shout out. The Stoon's Goons message is what you would interrupt. Oh wait, just scratch that part.
We got to do it in the right order. All right, there's a sequence. I didn't put it in the outline. If you want to send us an email, you can email us at scrollandpodcast@gmail.com. And then we have a guild called Stoon's Kids.
Oh, jeez.
So if you want to be a part of that guild, you can let us know in that email, or you can hit us up in game. PCNA. I'm at Sparrowhawk. Davius is at Starjumper.
You really have to let Ket know. You're really gonna have to convince him on, not that we accept all we accept all people. That's not the hard part. It's really convincing Ket that you really are sure you want to join the guild. That's the part. So just be prepared for. You gotta really want it,
because otherwise,
Ket's gonna say, just stay in your current guild. Just.
Well, I just don't want you to drop, like, if you're in 5 guilds, I don't want you to drop, like, a really active good guild to be in the Stoon's Guild. That's all. The Discord's really where it's at. So hit me up, scrollandpodcast@gmail.com, and I'll send you a link to the Discord. That's where the real sweet action is. The sweet memes, all the good discussions, all that stuff. I'll get you an invite there. If you want to be in the Stoon's Goons in the game, hey, you can do it. Technically, it's possible. All right. Anyway,
it is a real guild.
It exists. I mean, it's the best named guild in the game.
There you go. See, a kind thing for the guild.
We got a good name. We have a great guild hall. Anyway, that's this episode of Scroll It.
I want to give some final shout outs to Dr. Professor and Grizzly Con for joining us live. Pretty cool. Really awesome. They're kind of the first ones to test that out. It was a lot of fun. I liked it. Shout out to both those guys.
Yeah, it's really cool. This is the thing. If you missed it a few episodes back, we announced that this is something we'll be doing from now on while we record. Members of the Discord are invited to listen in and participate in chat and kind of add to the discussion. And I think it might take a few times for us to kind of get used to that dynamic and stuff.
We don't know what we're doing.
It's just a new thing, but I've definitely enjoyed it this time. But I think it definitely adds an element, and it's cool. So yeah, definitely thank you guys. All right, I think that is going to do it for this episode. Thank you very much for listening. We will catch you next time.